Hey team, welcome back to another great episode of the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. This is your host, Mark Jewell, coming at you solo today with something that's going to put a lot of time, maybe even some money back into your pocket. My friends, I'm going to be diving into the word value today, and in particular, I'm going to be diving into the 4 different levels of value that we can categorize everything that we do in the marketplace into. Everything that we do on a day-to-day basis can be categorized. Every activity that we do can be categorized into one of these 4 categories of value, particularly those things that you're doing as it pertains to having relationships with customers, having relationships with coworkers, having relationships with your boss, with your employees, etc. This is a leadership podcast. You get the idea. That's what we're going to be diving into. This is a Thriving Thursday, Thrive Talk, where we do a little bit of teaching. We've shifted some things on the podcast recently. We're doing our interview shows on Mondays. Those drop 6 a.m. Central Time, I believe, 6 a.m. Central Time on Mondays. Thursdays, we're doing these Thrive Talks, these Thriving Thursday Thrive Talks. And what this is about is bringing you some of the content that we teach during our Thriving Leader programs to get you guys exposed to this. When we teach our Thriving Leader, we actually have so much content, we can't cover it all. And so John Anderson, Christine, and I were talking about this, and we said, let's put it on the podcast. Let's get people access to some of the modules, the frameworks that we teach in that program. John and I have been doing this over the last several weeks on the show. I decided to come on here today and just go solo and walk you through these 4 levels of value. My friend, right now, this is the part you want to grab something that you can take notes on. Put your voice recorder on if you don't have this playing through your phone, so that you can use your ChatGPT to take notes on it for you later. That's a great time saver. Go ahead and just get your notebook out. This is where you want to write some things down. You want to be able to actually follow through and categorize what these 4 levels of value are, understand what they are, and then be able to categorize your activities accordingly. Because here's what I found. Those people who are most intentional understand the value of their time and then utilize the right kind of activities to get the right kind of result. And being on a constant hamster wheel in life is no intentional way to live. And I don't want you to have to live that way anymore. So if you feel like you're in the hamster wheel, right? You feel like you're in the hamster wheel and that keeps happening on repeat. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to go over to themomentumcompany.com, themomentumcompany.com, and I want you to book a call or register for one of our upcoming events. Okay, book a call so that we can talk about it, how we can get you off that hamster wheel, or go ahead, register for one of our Thriving Leader events. We are our next one. Actually, we're past the booking deadline for our March events, but we are coming up here on the, we'll have another one here at the last week of August, likely in Kansas City, so we can get you registered for that one. With that, let's dive in and talk 4 levels of value. This is one of our Thriving Leader participants' favorite frameworks because it gives them power back in their lives to be able to manage their time better, get more value out of their day. There's 4 different levels of value as we look at activities that we do. I'm going to stick to the customer concept here today and use some analogies that I think might be familiar with you, but you can apply this to the things that you do inside your teams, inside your homes, etc. We can use, quite frankly, we use this module, this framework, just about everywhere we go. The first level, the most basic level of value is transactional. A transactional level of value means that you have a product, your customer has the money and the need, and you maybe probably have the best price, or you're the most convenient at that moment. They give you the money, they take the thing, you give them the thing, you keep the money. It's a transaction. For most of us, this is how we buy gas. Driving down the road, I've got 4 options. There's a gas station at every corner coming through town, and which one am I going to go to? In all likelihood, either the most convenient or the cheapest. If this one's 2 cents cheaper, we might go across 4 lanes of traffic to get in there. Some people will, some of you will, for sure. We're looking for the cheapest thing. It's just a transaction. There's no heart in it. There's nothing special about it. It's just a way that we go about getting what we need. It's a transaction. Anytime that there's a cost in a relationship, right? To be able to do something, there is a transaction. But when something becomes transactional, if we think about this from a relationship perspective, it's like, I will only pay attention to you when you give me X, right? When you give me what I want, then I pay attention to you. That's the very definition of a transactional relationship. Many of you are in transactional relationships with your customers because you've given them power over you. In many cases, kind of put them on pedestals. And so when they call, you answer, regardless of what you're doing. Could be at your kid's t-ball game. You might be at church. As soon as you get a text message or a call from that farmer, you're jumping, right? Taking that phone call. If you, maybe you don't do it anymore, but I bet you've done it in the past. And I bet you got people on your teams that are doing it. We see this all the time. There are transactional relationships. And what's so challenging about transactional levels of value is that it's so basic. You can easily be replaced. If you're the vendor, it's very, very easy to get replaced. So we have to work on something better. So we're looking up the ladder. Let's look up the rung just one more level. And that's where we get to level 2, which is expected value. To be able to be in the game, to be able to be in business, you have to be able to do the basic things that are expected of you. What are the basic things that are expected of you? If you're in ag retail, people basically expect you to have product available, to be competitive in the market price-wise, to be available when you're called upon, to have the basic, service, delivery. A lot of that stuff gets done for free. I don't know why, but it does, because that's the expectation that has been set across the broad scope of the industry. And so that would be an example. If you're a manufacturer, right, there are basic things that you're expected to be able to deliver. You're expected to be able to deliver on time. You should have good quality product. You should be ballpark on the price. There may be even an expectation that you have some special program that people can participate in, that you should have training that comes along with how to sell your thing or how to use your thing, and so on and so forth. Those are expected levels of value. In order to be in the game, we have to be able to show up and just at least do table stakes activities, okay? Now, the next level up where most of us try to compete is the added value level of value, okay? The value add stuff. This thing that you do that's just a little bit different to differentiate yourself from other people in the marketplace. When we think about what other people are doing in the marketplace, and we're like, well, how do we get more exposure? How do we get more leads? How do we get more people in our pipeline so that we can sell them more stuff? We tend to think about, okay, what are the value adds? It's the creative ideas. Sometimes it comes from marketing. Sometimes it comes from product innovation. Regardless of where it comes from, it's innovation, right? It's something that helps us stand out. And there's all kinds of things that we do across the broad scope of the industry that are value add, okay? Value add is the next step above expected value. So the first 3 that we have so far in review: level 1, transactional, things for money, money for things. Expected value, expected levels of value. These are the table stakes, the stuff you got to be able to do at the most basic level. And then the next step up, and this is where so many of us are spinning our wheels trying to come up with ideas, it's the value add. What's the thing that we do that's just a little bit better, right? That helps us capture market share. Now, I'm reflective of my experience growing up in the Midwest, and I spent a lot of time in Wisconsin. And I was in Wisconsin as Quick Trip. In fact, I lived in La Crosse, Wisconsin, as Quick Trip was exploding. That's where they're headquartered out of. And Quick Trip was really starting to expand throughout Wisconsin and southeast Minnesota. And then they had a little offshoot into northeast Iowa called Quick Star. And those of you that have been to that part of the country or anywhere where they have Quick Trips, let me tell you, I'm sure that you have had some experience, right? And Quick Trip was a really unique experience in the world of gas stations, right? I'm taking this out of agriculture for a minute, a little bit on the food and fuel side of things. Quick Trip did something unique, value added to the marketplace as it pertains to being a gas station. Because when you think about a gas station back in the day, man, when I was a kid, it was usually a tire shop, and you're lucky to have a greasy toilet if you needed to go to the bathroom. It was basically there to get gas, right? And maybe get some work done on your vehicle or buy some oil, but not much more than that. I mean, I don't remember gas stations being too terribly extravagant in the 1980s, right? But little by little, we've added more things. Casey's came along with Casey's Pizza, right? And that was an innovation. But you still had a very average gas station experience. And now in the early 2000s, Quick Trip started to explode. They came on the market. And what you really have is almost a grocery store, like a true convenience store. And they make a lot of their own products. So they're very highly integrated and fully integrated and very profitable. And they stick those profits back into their business and namely into their people. So when I was in graduate school, I did a master's degree in Colorado State online in organizational leadership with a focus on change management. So I was very interested in what Quick Trip was doing, and they were right there in the town that I lived in at the time. And I scheduled a meeting with the director of organizational development for the company at the time, a guy named John McHugh. And John took my meeting, and I got to go in and interview him for an hour. And I learned all kinds of things about what Quick Trip was doing to build an organization, to build a team that was profoundly different. Because when you would think about the type of person, the type of talent required to work at a gas station, generally speaking, it wasn't too much above a high school degree, if that, right? It was a place where people who couldn't get jobs other places would go to work. But what Quick Trip did is they took a very, very different spin, and they created an amazing environment within which their people could thrive. Now, this interview took place circa 2010, 2011, just for your frame of reference. So this is about 15 years old from a data perspective, but I think that the principles remain true. What Quick Trip did is they were very intentional about curating this culture within which their people could thrive. And then they also were very intentional about their recruiting. So they would go find, and in fact, John told me in the interview that for every position in the company, they currently had as of that moment, they had 4 people on the bench for every position. 4 people that if a store manager were to leave, and they had very low turnover for their industry, if a store manager were to leave and go somewhere else, they knew who the next 3 potential people were to backfill that position. So they were going to go almost no time without having somebody capable of coming in to run a store. And that would be true for the one in training and the next one and the next one. And so they were very intentional about their recruiting, and not only in their stores, but throughout the entire organization. In fact, I met a guy at the bar one time who was a banana ripener, which means if this is true, that there was a banana ripener in training. There had to be one back there somewhere, because this was a core principle. This was something that they did inside their organization. So what does this all mean as it pertains to our conversation today? Give you a little background on what helped Quick Trip explode and what's continuing to help them expand across the Midwest and beyond. What was so unique is they were very, very intentional about their leadership, and they created a value-added workplace that attracted great talent. They created a great workplace that attracted great talent into a type of work environment where you think about going to work at a grocery store. Nobody was going to the high school counselor's office saying, man, what do I have to do to go work at a gas station? When we were kids, not back then, but now, like, these are actually really good jobs, good paying jobs with really good benefits and really good investment opportunities. And you can actually make a career working inside of a company like Quick Trip. So they changed the game. Now, what this did for the marketplace, for those of us just going in to buy gas and pizza and burgers and sodas and water, and thank God they have a healthy food section for people like me that can't eat the stuff that comes in the bag, and so I can get an apple or some cheese or a beef stick or some boiled eggs. They have all these things right there, carrots that you can buy. They have all kinds of stuff in there. So, but what they did is they created a value-added experience for those of us who are the customer. They created a value-added experience that would make us want to come back, not just with their little points, right? You have the little Quick Trip Club or whatever they called it, but with all kinds of things. There was good reason to want to go in a friendly environment and a clean environment and clean bathrooms. These were all value-add marketing differentiators, marketable differentiators that set them apart from the Casey's of the time, from the other the QT Quick Trips of the time. We used to have one in my hometown called Super America, right, of the time, the mobile gas stations of the time. And so that was how they were value add different in the marketplace. Now, we're 15 years from the time that I wrote that paper, that I did the interview. And here's what I've seen evolve in the gas station world over the years. And any of you who have driven through gas stations lately will recognize this. the other competitive brands within the region soon followed suit. And they built nicer stores. They trained their people better. They created better work environments for the most part. They provided other great options, right? And so maybe nobody's crushing it exactly like Quick Trip these days, but there are some, when you think about Casey's or QT Quick Trip, some of those other ones that have created a very nice or a nice enough competitive experience by basically copying some of the same things that the innovator in the market did. So here's the lesson that we can learn from that. Anything that your company's doing today to stand out, maybe you're white labeling a product, private labeling a product, maybe you've got a special program that you're doing. Maybe you've got really, really good, you've got some good people who are able to do customer service just a little bit better. It doesn't really matter. Whatever the thing is that you're doing today that makes you better and helps you capture market share from the marketplace and take market share away from your competitors, anything that you're doing today that is a value add will eventually become expected, just like in the gas station world. What Quick Trip was doing 10 years ago, 15 years ago was really unique and really special. Today, it's still good, but it's not so good that it can't be copied. I'll say that again. What they were doing then was good, but not so good that it can't be copied. Okay? This is really important as you think about your own business. What are the things that you're doing in your business that are simply transactional? And maybe they always will be. What are the things you have to do that are just expected? And what are the things you're currently doing that are value add? Understanding that a year from now, 5 years from now, that may not be that special. Because if it's good and it actually helps you capture market share, it will eventually get copied. I remember when we first came out in our business, we came out with a 2-day training followed by a 90 days of virtual coaching. In fact, this predates Zoom. We were doing it on WebEx back in 2013, 2014. I was running a 2-day training program, and then we would actively reinforce this. And this is what my customers would say what differentiated us in the marketplace from other trainers is that we actually backed it up with coaching. Right. And we would do that in a way that made sense financially for them and for us. And we did 2 days of training and 90 days of coaching. And to my knowledge, at that point, there was nobody else doing it quite like we were. And so that was a marketable differentiation in the market. And that worked really well for us all the way up until 2019 and then into 2020. And then 2020 hits and everybody goes to Zoom for everything. And so now our 2-day training, 90-day coaching really just became another Zoom meeting. It just became another call. And there are things that we do within the call to try to make it be something that people want to show up to and want to attend. And we have incredibly high attendance on the coaching calls that we do for our clients today. However, it sort of became stale. It was no longer that special. So again, anything that was once a value add eventually just becomes expected. Of course, they're doing Zoom calls. That was not even special or unique anymore. It's just expected when I show up to do a sales call for what we have to sell at the Momentum Company. And so we've had to innovate in order to continue to differentiate in our business. So we're coming up with new things. But the point of this is I don't want you to get stuck with all of your customers at this value add. What that means is you just have to keep coming up with new things in order to keep them entertained. And as I said back in the beginning, that's actually the definition of a transactional relationship. So it's not really value add at all. It just keeps you on the hamster wheel doing transactions by coming up with cute new ideas. And I don't want to be playing that game. Now, can you get to the next level of that I'm going to get into here in a second with every one of your customers? Absolutely not. But you can get there with enough. You can get there with enough. And here's how I know. There's something called Pareto's principle or Pareto's principle, depending how you like to read it. Pareto, Pareto's principle, also known as the 80-20 rule. Okay, I have asked this question across dozens and dozens and dozens of audiences, across hundreds and hundreds of coaching clients in our coaching calls, and I will ask them, What percentage of your customers would I have to take a look at in order to find 80% of your business? What percentage of your business, what percentage of your book of business do I need to talk to find the 80% of your business? Okay. So that means 80% of your revenue is going to come from this, from X, from this percentage across every room. On average, my friends, it is 20%. It's the 80-20 rule. It's Pareto's principle. It is predictable across almost every single business. How is that true? Well, you have some large customers, you have large accounts. I have large accounts. I have 2 accounts that make up a significant chunk of our business, right? And then we have a lot of small customers. I have 3 accounts, 5 accounts, maybe 10 if it's a big business, but maybe we have 10 accounts that make up 80% of our revenue. For some of you, that's 20 accounts that make up 80% of your revenue. That means you have 100 customers, right? Some of them are very small, low-level transactions. They're there. You're glad they're there. But the bulk of the business comes from the top 20%. It's 5, 10, 15, 20 customers usually at most, depending on your particular book of business. If it's a larger entity, larger company, obviously just scale the numbers up or scale the numbers down based on your size. So when I think about it this way, by the way, I think about it this way, and then I ask my customers this question as well. So which customers are the easiest to deal with? The ones in the top 20% or the ones in the bottom 80%, right? The 20% that gets you the 80%, right? Or is it the 80% that gets you the 20% of your business? Which are the easiest to deal with? 100% of the time, always, always, always. The biggest customers are easier to deal with, less stressful. Hard work, sure, right? Stressful on occasion, absolutely. Life is life. Business is business. But the vast majority will tell me that the least stressful customers are usually the ones who do the most with them. And then I'll ask, okay, where does most of your stress come from? And they'll say it's from the other 80%. And usually even within that, it's another 20% of the 80% where most of the headaches come from. What does this all mean? Well, what we're looking for is, with that 20%, that brings me to 80% of my business, right? The biggest chunk. Can I develop partnership level value with those people? That's the 4th level. You have transactional, expected, added value, and then partnership level value. Can I get into partnership with people? Can we get to a point where I'm invested in their business, maybe not financially, but at least emotionally, and I really care about their success, and they genuinely care about my success, because my success makes their life better, makes their life easier. Me being in business, you being in business, means that there's some friction somehow that is getting removed from their life, and they're willing to invest at maybe even full price. Maybe they just, they're willing to pay a little bit more sometimes because they are relying on you. You, the person, you, the product, you, the brand, all those things put together, you, right? They're relying on you being around so that you can keep going, so that they can keep going, and that somehow removes a little bit of friction from their life. Now, in this conversation, in this podcast, I'm not going to get into the how-to behind how to create those partnership level values. I would encourage you to come to one of our trainings or hire us to come in and do value-based sales training for your team and your organization. It'd be very valuable. But understanding that I have these 4 levels, and I can take a look. I can actually segment my customer base. I can segment my folks that I work with, the activities that I'm doing, and say, okay, what are the 20% of the activities that I do that get me 80% of the results? Focus in on that. If there's 20% of the things you do that get you the 80% of the results, let's just do more of those things. They're less stressful than the 80% of the stuff that's taking up all of your time. Let's find ways to outsource. Now, how do we solve for some of that stuff? If it's at the transactional level or the expected value level, the biggest 2 ways that I would look to solve: number 1, delegation. Give some of those activities to other people. There may be other people, like the thing that you hate doing may actually be something that someone else really enjoys. I have often held on to activities thinking, oh, man, I don't want to burden anybody with all this detail that you have to sift through to do this part of the job. And then I find out later on, I found this out the hard way, that somebody in my team really, really loves the detail, and they actually enjoy it. And me giving them the thing I hated actually made their day. So don't hold on to things just because um, you think you don't want to burden somebody with the thing that you don't like. That may not be true. Question that one always. The second way is the technology. What can you solve from a technology standpoint? I'll give you a quick example. I've implemented ChatGPT into my proposal writing process. And so when I jump on a sales call with somebody, I politely ask if they mind if I record. Nobody has ever told me no. I record it because it records and I get the transcription. And it's better note taking than I can take on my notebook. So we're in the 21st century. Let's use 21st century tools. But then I take that transcript. I've taught my chat GPT how to write proposals in the format that I like to have them written. And it takes all the information from that call and it puts it into a proposal format for me. My proposal writing time historically was over 2 hours, and now it's less than 10 minutes. So can I solve for some of these transactional, expected, even value add things with technology? The answer is yes, in many ways, and that's only going to expand and get better. So find ways to use the technologies. This is the most interesting and amazing time that we've ever lived through, and from a technology perspective. So get ready. There are some things out here that can save you a ton of time when implemented into your business, where you're probably doing some transactional activities, some expected activities that suck the energy out of you, but they don't have to. There are better ways to go about doing them. So I'll put a pin in that and leave that there for another day, another time, another Thriving Thursday talk. So my friends, in summary, okay, there's 4 levels of value. There's expected transactional value, then expected value, then value add, and then partnership. The goal is to identify who can I get in partnership with, and then to go sit down with those people and get into partnership level conversations and find ways to make it make sense, to build a moat around your time, your business, the relationships that you have, especially with other customers. You can do this inside your company as well. I see far too many people so stressed out today, just running from one place to the next place, trying to prove themselves worthy of doing these transactions. And in as much as I get that there are things that have to get done. We can't just outsource everything. We can't solve everything with technology. Sometimes there's just hard work to do. I don't want to dismiss that. I know that's true. I have the same thing in my business. And my friends, we have to raise the standard. Go, at least if nothing else, the one behavior I would implore you to do after listening to this podcast today would be to go through your customer list and identify who are the top 20% that make you the 80%. And then find a way to develop deeper relationships with them, and then watch how those relationships will actually replace the other 20% of the revenue. And at bare minimum, it will put you in a position over the next 12 to 24 months. It'll put you in a position to decide whether you do business with your stressful customers or not. Thanks for tuning in to the Intentional Agribusiness Leader Podcast. Intentional leaders understand the value they bring to the table, and they allocate their time accordingly. We'll see you on the next one.